Well, since summer is nearing the end and with all the kids going back to school, the Halloween season is starting up and one last movie to see before class is back in session. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is here for that. Going into this movie, I never actually read any of the books for two reasons. The first reason was I was a real wimp as a child and only tolerated some Goosebumps and other books that had some unsettling covers on them. The second reason is these books were always checked out whenever I went to the library. I'd see other kids try to check it out or try to see if it was in stock, and it was always out. It never felt like it was ever in stock. Surfing online and looking at these illustrations, I could only imagine how little 6-year-old me, who was terrified of Ghostbusters, would have had nightmares for months after seeing them. Flash forward to today, and I'm a huge fan of horror movies and always looking for a nice scare or unsettling vibes because I guess I just don't like being happy. I didn't expect a whole lot from Scary Stories and honestly thought it would go down the path of the Goosebumps movies, but I was wrong because this thing had some amazing creature designs and was really jarring at some points. I would honestly call it the best horror movie for young adults in quite some time, and I honestly could see this one being remembered online in like 15 years by the generation of kids that see it as the one that mortified them the most. Scary Stories doesn't really let up when it goes through these short stories and let the monsters roam around on camera. In fact, this movie is what Goosebumps should have been, more horror than comedy, an attempt to show off some cool monsters in their own stories rather than a Jumanji approach where all of them just pop out of something, and something that both kids and adults can enjoy and be engaged in. The story focuses around a group of friends who come across a dead woman's book that manages to write up the stories we know as Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. The book writes in a character from the movie and plops them into the story where the monster comes after them. While the wraparound story is not original and the characters in this movie are one-dimensional and never all that developed, it still keeps the viewer engaged enough until the next story pops up. I'd say I would have definitely found this movie scary if I was around the age of 10 or 11, primarily with the first kill that happens in this movie. It is one of the scenes I leaned over and said to the person that I was with, that was pretty jarring. The movie never really reaches that peak of intensity again, but wow, was that one unexpected. As someone in their 20s though, I didn't find this movie anything that I'd lose sleep over with, but I really appreciate these creature designs as they had a nice blend of practical and CGI effects. This is definitely one movie I could see playing every Halloween and never getting old. If you're concerned that this movie might be too scary for you or any children you take, maybe just expose them to the trailer to see a sample of the monsters and keep in mind that there are scenes where the kids are physically affected by these creatures and not scared just like they're going through like a spooky roller coaster ride. Actual stuff happens to all of the main characters in this movie. I'd say my main issues on top of the one-dimensional characters is that this movie felt like it wrapped up way too fast and it plays on the jump scares a bit too much for me. And while this movie doesn't do anything to push the horror genre to new grounds, it definitely makes up for it with the short stories containing these amazing monsters that look like they just leapt right off the pages of the original books. Overall, I had fun with Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark and would recommend it to any preteens or teenagers looking for an actual scare. It's nice to see Guillermo del Toro have his hands in horror aimed for young adults, as it was more effective than most R-rated horror movies that came out this summer. Fans of the book will probably like this movie, and I can see this one becoming a cult classic. And I'm going to throw this one a rating of 7 out of 10.